The sleek black SUV glided smoothly down a quiet suburban road, its engine barely making a sound. Inside, Andrea Miller, a 40-year-old black woman with a commanding presence, leaned back in her seat, savoring the calm after a long day. Andrea was not just any professional. She was the director of the FBI, one of the most powerful positions in American law enforcement. Yet tonight, she wasn't thinking about high-stakes cases or national security. All she wanted was to get home, enjoy a quiet dinner, and lose herself in a good book. The road was nearly empty, with only a handful of cars sharing the space. Andrea's headlights illuminated the asphalt ahead, the silence broken only by the rhythmic hum of the tires. Then, in the rearview mirror, a sudden flash of red and blue lights pulled her out of her thoughts. The unmistakable sound of a police siren followed, signaling her to pull over. Andrea frowned, a mix of confusion and irritation creeping onto her face. She hadn't broken any traffic laws, her speed was well within the limit, and she hadn't missed a single sign. Still, she dutifully steered her car to the side of the road and came to a stop. As she rolled down her window, a tall white man in his early 30s approached her car. His uniform was crisp, his badge reflecting the dim glow of the streetlights. His name tag read Jack Reynolds, and his expression was one of irritation bordering on hostility. Without offering a greeting, Jack leaned down, his eyes scanning Andrea and her vehicle. "You were stopped for security reasons," he said coldly, his tone dismissive. Andrea straightened in her seat, her calm demeanor masking the annoyance simmering beneath. "Security reasons?" she asked, her voice measured. "Is there a problem with me or my vehicle?" Jack didn't answer her question. Instead, he barked, "Show me your vehicle registration and driver's license." Andrea hesitated for a moment before complying. She opened her glove compartment, retrieved the requested documents, and handed them over. Jack barely glanced at them before turning on his heel and heading back to his patrol car. Sitting alone in the silence, Andrea's thoughts raced. This wasn't the first time she had been treated unfairly because of her skin color. Even in her high-ranking position, she had spent her entire career breaking barriers and proving doubters wrong. But moments like these still carried a sting. Jack returned after a few minutes, holding her documents loosely in one hand. "I need you to show me your ID," he demanded, his tone sharper now. Andrea raised an eyebrow. "My car registration and driver's license are valid. I've done nothing wrong. Why are you asking for my ID?" Jack crossed his arms, a smirk playing on his lips. "You have a suspicious attitude," he said. "A car like this, someone like you, doesn't add up." Andrea felt her pulse quicken, but she kept her composure. "Suspicious attitude? What exactly are you basing that on?" Jack shrugged, his gaze flicking dismissively over Andrea's simple yet elegant jacket. "Nothing special," he muttered, "but I'm in charge here. If you don't hand over your ID, I have every right to take you to the station." Andrea's grip tightened on the steering wheel. She forced herself to remain calm, her voice steady. "Sir, your request is illegal. I've provided all the necessary documents required by law. Unless you have a valid reason, I won't present additional identification." Jack's eyes narrowed, and his smirk turned into a sneer. "Don't tell me how to do my job, ma'am. People like you shouldn't challenge authority." Andrea froze momentarily at his words, the insult cutting deeper than she wanted to admit. Slowly, she met his gaze. "I'm not challenging your authority," she said, her voice firm. "I'm asking you to exercise it properly. What you're doing right now is an abuse of power, and it could get you into serious trouble." Jack leaned closer, his voice dripping with contempt. Trouble? You don't scare me. Who do you think you are to talk to me like that? Andrea's eyes didn't waver. Someone who knows the law better than you do. The situation was quickly spiraling out of control, and the tension between them was palpable. Jack now stood with his arms crossed, his presence looming, his posture radiating hostility. "I'll tell you this one more time," he growled. "Show me your ID, or I'll have no choice but to detain you." Andrea's fingers gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. She took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm. "Officer Reynolds," she began, her voice measured, "I've already provided all legally required documents. Your demand for my ID is not only unnecessary, it's unlawful. If you insist on continuing this, you'll be held accountable." Jack's expression darkened. The idea of being challenged by anyone, especially a black woman, was clearly intolerable to him. "Accountable?" he scoffed, leaning down so that his face was inches from hers. "You've got some nerve. You think you're above the rules, don't you?" Andrea's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. "I don't think I'm above the rules, but I know the rules. And right now, you're breaking them." Jack's patience frayed. He slammed a hand on the roof of her car, his face flushed with anger. "Do you know who you're talking to?" he barked. "I'm the law here. You're just another stop driver. If you don't comply, I'll make sure you regret it." Andrea's eyes didn't waver. "You might want to rethink that," she said evenly. "This isn't just about me. Your actions tonight could ruin your career." Jack laughed, a bitter, mocking sound. "My career? You really think I care about what you have to say?" Andrea slowly reached for her phone, holding it up where Jack could see it. "What are you doing?" Jack demanded, his tone tinged with suspicion. Andrea pressed a number on speed dial and lifted the phone to her ear. "Calling someone who outranks you," she said simply. The line connected, and Andrea's voice was calm but commanding. "This is Andrea Miller," she said. "I'm being detained unlawfully by a police officer. I need the sheriff's presence immediately." Jack's eyes widened, his confidence faltering. "Who are you calling?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. Andrea didn't answer him directly. Instead, she relayed her location to the person on the other end of the line. "Thank you," she said before ending the call. Looking back at Jack, she said firmly, "The sheriff will be here shortly. I suggest you think very carefully about your next move." Jack's bravado began to crumble. Though his hand lingered near his weapon, the gun itself stayed holstered. His face flushed with anger and uncertainty. "This isn't over," he muttered, but the cracks in his resolve were clear. Andrea, unwavering, prepared herself for what was to come, knowing that the situation was far from resolved.